What's going on, everyone? My name's Alex. That's Eileen, and you're watching Straight to the Chicane podcast. And this weekend, we are talking the Mexico City GP.
Yes, we are.
What did you think of the race before we get going?
I mean, after last weekend, I don't know if it was a combination of being there versus not being there, but not a whole lot of action. A little slow, a little snoozy.
Well, yeah, I'm going to be honest, too. It was, my opinion, the worst race of the season. Very boring up front. There was some good passes in the back. Daniel made a good run at the end there.
There was some good Danny Ricciardo action.
There was, even though he got a 10-second penalty. However, it was very boring, and it was pretty much set right from the first turn.
Yeah, pretty much.
So,
which was expected.
Yeah, so I don't have much to say positive about it, unfortunately. I wanted to see in our...
what do you mean? I feel like Mexico's always great because we get to see the energy, the
Well,
Checo
lots
fans.
of energy. Checo fans, Checo back on the podium again, however, not with the race win. Something about it being one of the shortest courses, the shortest tracks in the series. Elevation being an issue, lack of air being an issue, heat being an issue. I don't know. I just think that this season these cars aren't as close as we thought and we wanted them to be.
I think we expected it to be a little bit more of a battle this weekend.
I think we were just kind of hoping the way that Mercedes was kind of trending, and that it would have been more of a battle. And honestly, who knows what would have happened if Lewis would have went on some mediums instead of going on hards for that last run, because honestly, it was really, I was waiting for the tires to go off on the Red Bulls. With the heat,
with everything.
And the tires never went off. The tires were, I bet you Checo could have ran softs the whole entire race. It was that kind of a race, really.
Was it because Mexico's daylight savings time was a week early this time? So
it could be, and so it was an hour later. Everything was an hour cooler, I guess, compared to what it was yesterday or the day before for testing. That is a possibility, I guess. I think also they resurfaced 80% of the track before they got here this year. So I don't think that the track was as abrasive as other tracks are.
I know we expected it to be a two-stopper, and then nobody did a two-stopper.
I was really expecting a two-stopper. I was expecting soft, medium softs, or medium soft, or medium soft.
I was expecting, for the people who were on softs, soft, medium, medium.
Oh, no. It would have been soft, medium, soft.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But most of them didn't have, extra softs. Max and Checo and most people who were on softs started on used softs. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know. It was interesting tire strategy. Definitely split between a lot of the teams. The people who started on mediums did go to hards. People who started on softs went to mediums. You expected them to pit again.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
Yeah. If you haven't yet, please, we've gotten into this a little bit. Please subscribe, whatever. If you made it this far, thank you. We are talking the Mexico City GP. I want to know your guys' thoughts. I'm curious on what you got.
Was it boring? I mean, it was boring.
I think if you're a Max fan, you're happy, you're excited. You think you've had a really good season. I think if you're not a Max fan, we've heard other people say if you're not a Max fan, you probably haven't had that good of a season. It has been a little bit of a lull.
It's not that but if I was a Max fan still, I want to see some action. We didn't even watch Max on TV today. So I'm like,
there was one take. I think they cut to him for a minute. Yeah.
We cut to him when he was talking about his tires at the beginning, and then when there was a little bit of bouncing when he was going over the curbs. And I feel like other than that, he was, just kind of doing his thing.
You're right.
Kind of just off track, just off camera, off anything. So.
Yeah, he was dominant, and he's been dominant this whole season. The car is a level above a lot of everybody else's, even his own teammates, essentially.
I know, crazy. But congrats. So Max has the new record, 14 race wins in one season.
Yeah, which is impressive. I mean, he's just very dominant this year, for sure. And with it being such a long many races.
Well, yeah, no, I think the new broadcaster guy said it best. He has a little bit 2 more races to beat Michael Schumacher's record of the percentage for most wins in the season. And Max has been very open to that too.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Of course, like it's a record is a record, but it's also nice, to know, put it in perspective. There's a lot more races nowadays. But he also has the record, so he beat 2 records today. Most race wins in a season and most points scored in a season.
Yeah, which is very impressive. I mean, he's had a really good season.
That just goes to show his dominance.
Yeah.
This season.
Yeah, dominance, and no other team or teammate could even really compare to him, because it's a big separation between him and then who's fighting for second and third.
It is.
It's quite a bit of difference.
I think it's 160 points.
That's impressive. So yeah, he's had a really good season, and I think that's kind of why maybe I'm not the biggest Max fan. I know you're not the biggest Max fan. That's why I'm like, this has been a boring season. It's kind of been on a lull. Like
let's put that into perspective. It's not that we're not Max fans. Mm-hmm. We respect Max. I think we're just like, we want to see those battles. We want to see 3 teams fighting at the front. Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we were so blessed last year.
Oh my God.
With one of the best seasons ever in Formula One. Not the best. I would say it's top 3. There's a couple other ones that have been really, really good. Going down to the wire, I mean, last year at this time, things were just kind of starting to get crazy.
Oh my God, I know.
Especially at the Mexico City GP last year, it was a lot different atmosphere going into that race for the points and the constructors and everything than it was this year. This year, it's already been over. Like, everything was all settled up, all done and dusted over at Austin.
Red Bull and Mercedes were like 6 points apart last year. So from a constructor's standpoint, it was so close. Drivers' Championship, it was feeling like it was almost towards the end, and then it was like went into Brazil, and obviously we all know what happened last year. But I thought it was over in Brazil for a second there, but then we all know what happens. But yeah, it's like what are we fighting for, kind of thing. And so there's not really a whole lot to lose. There's definitely still a lot up on the table, especially in the midfield, like today with McLaren and Alpine, mm-hmm. and then even Ferrari and Mercedes is getting close. So
yeah, it is, and as we wind down, we got 2 races left for the whole season, which is I know it's already there. It's gonna go down the wire for those guys in that midfield for sure.
Yeah,
I need to get your thoughts before we get too far away from the race. We should try to stay on the race. What are your thoughts on the Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki hit, and then the subsequent 10-second penalty?
First of all, I think Daniel was at fault, because I definitely think he wasn't far enough, obviously up on Yuki to be able to take that risk.
Yeah.
But 10 seconds is way too harsh.
Yeah, I think so. It should have been a 5-second penalty.
I mean, I get it because it took him out of the race or whatever. Mm-hmm. But could we say the same thing for last race where Carlos opening lap got taken out?
That was a 5-second penalty.
I don't know, but I also like that he got the penalty because I feel like it kind of charged him up.
Yeah, we'll have to see some interviews after and see what he said.
He was on the go.
Because
so Ricciardo finished P7.
Yep.
Kept P7.
Yeah, with the
penalty.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Which also, you guys.
And I didn't before you finished, I didn't think he was going to be even in the points.
I didn't think so either.
Yeah.
I mean, Norris did let him by the team orders there for a second.
Happened.
But that was totally deserved.
Yeah.
Like, let's just give it to him. But he was going. The majority of the overtakes are Danny Ricciardo this race.
Yeah.
But I will say, George, under the safety car, because we got that safety car from Danny Ricciardo and Yuki.
Yeah.
Slightly for 2 seconds of VSC. He was like, I need to pit. The tires are dead. Put me on softs, which he did go for on the last lap to get fastest lap. But look at what Ricciardo was able to do with
on those softs.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that probably was the better strategy. I think
just the downfall for Mercedes.
I think
today.
Mercedes didn't have the right strategy. No. They went to the hards and kind of took a gamble based on what Latifi did, going on the hards first.
And I think that was their strategy from the beginning.
Probably, but all weekend long the hards were not really.
Well, I don't feel like we saw anybody test any hards
Yeah, I think because the softs and mediums were so good and so fast and durable.
And then we had the Pirelli test.
Yeah. So
We're done with the Pirelli test, right?
For the year, I believe, yes.
Good God, thank God. I'm like, because I just feel like I don't know teams going into the race pace.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
or do the teams know? Like you hear that in the interviews.
Sometimes they don't.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it was a little bit harsh to answer your question.
Okay.
But I think it was good motivation for Ricciardo, and I just wish we could have seen this Ricciardo all season.
I know. I don't know what happened. I got to figure it out because either they had the car in the right setup for today, he had the right temperament, and I don't know.
But even
because he didn't look like he hasn't looked like that all year.
Right. But he didn't even look like that in qualifying.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Another bit of news going into the race. There was some talk about Sky Sports and...
oh, my God.
Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Ted Kravitz.
Ted Kravitz, thank you.
Yeah.
Being canceled, being told that they shouldn't be on TV. They should be, fired or they should resign, essentially, because of remarks that Ted Kravitz said against Max and Red Bull.
Mm-hmm. So Max is, boycotting? And now we found out that Red Bull altogether, including Christian Horner, is boycotting all interviews with Sky Sports because Ted did an interview, or it might have been part of Ted's notebook, I think.
I think it was part of his notebook, and it was probably multiple broadcasts. It wasn't just one single broadcast, I don't think. I think it was the most recent one is what probably did it. It was the icing on the cake.
I think the first clip, that's part of it, where he talks about his championships, and basically the comment is Ted is saying Max has never won a championship without controversy, which I said that 2 episodes ago when he won in Suzuka. I was like, can't this guy catch a break where he wins a championship and doesn't have some stupid cloud over his head?
There's always an asterisk or something.
Which is true. It's true. So the statement is very true. We had all the crazy, and whether you're a Lewis fan or Max fan, Abu Dhabi, there was definitely controversy. Was it not? There was.
Well, the FIA has determined that it was human error that caused the problem, or caused the finish. So, however it was human error for sure.
Rule changes going into 2022 with the safety car restart, finishing under a safety car, lapped cars, unlapping themselves. So we saw a lot of changes that went into this year. So was Max it doesn't mean Max wasn't deserving of winning the championship. It just means that there was controversy around it. Mm-hmm. So I think that part of the comments that were made, it's just somebody reporting it. Now, what the controversy is him being going on for that whole segment. Oh yeah, well, a 7-time world champion. He's fighting and he's thinking he's in the contention to win. And then he ends up battling with the guy who his championship was robbed from. And, just the way that it obviously was worded. And, it's now calling for all sorts, just the toxicity of media and kind of taking things to the extreme and making fans hate each other. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but.
Yeah, I would say lately, it's been happening for forever. But lately, some of these, clickbait titles or headlines that have been going on is just it's gotta stop at some point, because it's happening with not just those two, it's happening with other drivers. Alonso, what he's saying and how he's wording things, and
Alonso and Lewis this weekend too. And it's no offense, I'm a girl, but I feel like sometimes the way that things are being worded is very dramatic. Yeah, we're making drama out of nothing. So, I get it. It's all for the circus and whatever. But it's just come on, you guys. And so then, of course, people are reading and seeing different things and speculating and whatever. But, we shouldn't be canceling media. Media is always going to be they got to go into it and they've got to, share their opinions on things. But it shouldn't be, let's cancel everybody.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. What else did I have? I had a couple other.
Well, back to the race, I guess. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about. So, we've last obviously race in the U.S. We saw Alonso. What a race! What a finish! after the USGP, it was up for dispute that he was going to, not be reinstated. He had a 30-second penalty that pulled him out of the points.
Well, he got that reinstated back.
Alpine appealed. Mm-hmm. He did get his P7 back, but crappy race today.
Yeah.
He had a good race. Like, honestly, he had a good race all the way, 12 laps left? Engine died. Alpine's got to get that fixed before next year.
I don't know if it was the engine or it might have been the engine. It sounded like transmission or something. It was just downshifted really funny, and then he was done. Able to get that out of the way pretty quickly. Another big thing is the start was really clean this
It was. Today. I was kind of shook.
Yeah, I didn't think. I figured somebody was going to make a small mistake, and there might have been something here or there, a little touchy, but nothing really major. Everyone got really clean. Max had a really good start, got out, stayed out in front, and kind of covered off Russell right away. Lewis was doing the slipstream, kind of stayed behind.
Perez, same thing.
Yeah, they were all slipstreaming really well. The major mistake was really Russell just kind of going a little wide because he was side by side with his teammate Lewis in turn 3 and kind of went deep into it. And that kind of got him a little behind on getting on full throttle. And that's kind of why Perez was able to get by right away within turn 3 on the first lap. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I think Russell's trying to be a little bit cautious.
I think he's got to be careful.
He got a lot of crap, I think, for some of the incidents that have taken place this year. And he's like, listen, I'm just trying to have the last 3 races be clean. So he was clean this race start, because it could have been a little bit more aggressive, I think, with Lewis into that turn. But it's hard with this track because it's like you turn right and then you're immediately turn left and then turn right. So it's like, you see a lot of that when they're side by side. I think that's why we saw the infamous Lewis going over the grass, cutting the whole curb back in the day.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, it was clean, surprisingly.
It was.
The whole race was clean.
It was very clean, and kind of some teams were kind of taking a chance there when pit stops were starting to happen, hopefully for a safety car or something to happen, and that kind of just never really came.
Yeah.
The tire fall off never really came.
Yeah.
All the tires kind of just held their own, so if you were set on the hards, you were kind of in the back foot. You weren't going to have the same speed as the mediums or the softs, and those 2 tires held up. That's the biggest thing I got out of this weekend, is that the softs and the mediums never fell off, really.
Yeah.
And Lewis's Bono kept saying, the mediums will fall off. It just never came. It just never came.
I know. I was waiting for something to happen. I'm like, man, they can't go 40 to 50 laps on these tires, but
they did.
They certainly did.
They certainly did.
With only a VSC too, surprisingly. So they really didn't have that to their advantage.
Nope.
So let's talk about Ferrari.
Yeah.
What a weekend.
A little bit of a struggle.
What happened?
Compared to last weekend.
So they turned their engines down to basically, I guess, not take engine penalties, I think.
I think I think they were worried about the altitude and the fact that
their paint was melting off their car.
Yeah, so I think they turned everything down, and it showed that how they weren't even really in it. They were, 20-something seconds behind?
Carlos was 31 seconds behind at the end of the race to George.
Yeah.
P4. Carlos was P5.
Which is big.
And that's why he was able to stop for fastest lap.
And he got the fastest lap.
Which is huge. And then Leclerc was, I think, 7 seconds behind, maybe 5 to 7 seconds. So they had a tough weekend, tough qualifying. This was the first weekend we didn't see Ferrari in the top 3 all season. And kind of unusual to see. I mean, it was a little bit of flashback 2020.
Yeah, totally.
Two Mercs.
All weekend, actually.
2 Mercs, 1 Red Bull.
All weekend.
So just where they kind of fell. We saw qualifying. We saw Lewis P1, Q1, Q2. And then he had an issue in Q3, but Max obviously cleared the board. And George actually had a really solid Q3.
Yeah. Even though my predictions both of us had Hamilton winning, I wasn't trying to get my hopes up this weekend for Hamilton to win. However, this weekend kept looking like this could have been the weekend. Yeah. He had Q1 and Q2 in qualifying fastest.
Yep. In practice, they looked good, too.
And they did. And then in Q3, he had a little mistake on his first timed lap.
Yeah.
And had to kind of be a little conservative on that second one to make sure he got it in. So he didn't get the fastest lap on.
And then he was having issues all weekend, it seemed like.
Seemed like the power was going in and
even
out.
during the race, he was like, the power's cutting in and out. Like, there's issues. I mean, Max said that at one point, too. But
I wonder what that's like. Because, in the road cars, when power cuts in and out, it's like the whole thing just turns off. You know what I mean?
What's happening?
Yeah. And I don't think it's quite as extreme in those cars. I think it's just like the engine's overheating, so it's using protocols in sensors to kind of moderate how much power. So even though he's got it full throttle, it kind of lags a little bit to not, maybe overheat. I don't really know. I've never been in a Formula One car, so I don't know what he means by that.
It means something's doesn't feel right.
It means it's not 100%. You're right about that.
So, but I would say Mercedes is looking pretty good the last couple races.
I'm putting all my baskets straight up into Brazil as Lewis's win. It's his second home.
You're putting all your eggs in a basket.
What did I say?
Or what are you putting your baskets in?
I'm putting a lot of baskets in things.
They've all got to go into one spot.
Yeah, eggs in a basket. Is that better? Yes, I'm going all in on this upcoming race in 2 weeks' time up in Brazil.
We really wanted to see Checo win today.
We did, and I think he really wanted to win. I think. Finishing on the podium is still good. Still got third. Family's still there. Everybody was there for Checo. People love Checo.
This is back-to-back home races for Checo. It feels like. So.
And I'm sure he's probably been inundated with so much press and so much stuff that maybe even took a little bit of a toll on what he needed to do.
I just wonder
because he was on mediums and wasn't able to catch Lewis the whole race.
Well, I think part of it is and he didn't pit that much earlier, but he was the first to pit,
right?
Because Mercedes kind of pulled that dummy where it was like, oh, we're gonna have you go long, Russell, and then then they were gonna have him pit, and then Perez came in to probably cover him off. But I think the issue for him was qualifying. He didn't have DRS, and then he was having issues with DRS the whole race. And then he also had issues where he wasn't able to see where drivers were, so he had no visibility during qualifying. So he was just blind leading the blind.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know about that for qualifying.
Yeah.
I just don't think he was, I don't know. I think it's kind of been all year for him. He hasn't been quite comfortable with that car. He hasn't been what Max has been able to do with that car. So I think.
Well, I thought it was interesting today that they're basically kind of on the exact same strategy.
They were.
And it was maybe 4, maybe 5 laps, not that much of a difference. And Max would just ran away with it, and Checo could not catch up to Lewis. So I don't know. It was kind of surprising to see. Still a good race from him, but I kind of was nervous there for a second. Okay, it's going to be Red Bull 1-2. What's going to happen, type of thing.
Yeah, but I figured Checo was going to pass Lewis.
I know. It was deja vu.
Never got into the DRS zone.
He did at one point. It was a quick, few laps where
he was under a second.
0.8. But I mean, and it just wasn't close enough. But the Red Bull, I think we saw him pass. Was it Carlos or Charles? I can't remember. Where his DRS lap didn't open on the main straight, and he still was able to get past him. So it could have been that he just didn't have DRS, and that's why he wasn't able to get past Hamilton. So. I'm sure we'll hear all about it.
Yeah, we will. We'll see some more interviews and things like that. This race overall, for me, not the greatest, not the most entertaining. It was just a good weekend, good weather, good atmosphere. I feel like if I go to a Mexican race, the beers are bigger than in America. Oh my gosh. And probably cheaper.
They had some cool stuff.
Yeah, and I do like how they have the stadium setting section, and that's where they do the big grandstand, the big final, the trophy area, the podiums right there.
I love that they park on the track in the stadium for the top 3. I think that's the coolest.
That's pretty cool. And then they bring the number 1 car, or whatever car that won, which was this year and last year Max. They bring it up to the actual podium for that, and that's pretty cool. I even enjoyed this year the music being different.
God, the F1 theme song.
Yeah, it was
the mariachi version.
It was really good.
That was the best.
Yeah,
that was my favorite part of the weekend. I feel like so.
And I think that's how it They should do it.
They didn't play it on Sky Sports. I did see that on social media. They were like, "Where's the mariachi version of the F1 theme song?" They did play it on the F1 broadcast though. So
and then since we're talking about F1 broadcasts and broadcasting, I guess in general, these last 2 races they've invited American commentators, broadcasters to come and commentate. This weekend was Danica Patrick and I keep losing his name from.
The guy that I don't know what his name is.
He's an IndyCar broadcaster, and I've heard him when I was at the Indy 500.
I think an Indy racer.
He was. Yeah. However, I heard him broadcast American motorsports before. How do you feel about that? What do you think?
I think you know how I feel. It's not I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. I said that last race. I said it last episode. If you haven't watched it yet, we obviously were late with the USGP recap, but
yep.
I miss just the normal broadcast. So I don't know. It feels weird. It feels a little unusual. But I get why they're doing it. Like you said, I feel like they're definitely trying to Americanize it.
They are.
But I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that either. I think the commentary is okay, I guess. I think if it's just on the side, I
think it's fine, but don't you feel like there's the guy, and I hate to say it, this is terrible, but he's great with the stats. Like, I feel like he was the one that had shared, Max got 14 wins, but he still has 2 races to beat Michael Schumacher's record of percentage wins per season. Sure. He has like a stats book, so that's amazing. But sometimes I feel like they don't know some of the stipulations and things that go into Formula One. I didn't know Formula One cars went 220 miles per hour.
I will say this. I think because I've heard Crofty and all of them do that. They do it all the time. They treat each race broadcast as if there always are going to be new people watching. Yeah, so they kind of keep things very simple on some ends. Right. And I think that's what Danica Patrick was trying to do, is just keep it. She knows that these cars go 200 miles an hour. She's driven cars that go 200 miles an hour. I think she's just trying to play a new fan perspective.
I could see that.
If you want my opinion.
I could see that.
I said it in our last Austin recap video podcast that I just like the non-American side of things. I don't necessarily want to listen to Americans speak about Formula One when it is such a newer sport here. I enjoy it not being so Americanized.
I get why they're doing it because it is becoming so big in America. So I feel like just from relatability to broadcasters, I'm sure that's why they're doing it, especially considering we're a country that's going to have 3 races next year.
We are.
So I get it. It's just weird for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't be the only one.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry we don't really have a whole lot to talk about the actual race. There's just a few little things here and there. But honestly, I just didn't. This race wasn't doing it for me. I was kind of bored. I keep saying it. But, we
wanted more action. But we're going to Brazil for the next race. Overtaking's a lot easier here, so we should definitely see some excitement. We were just gung-ho off of the U.S. Grand Prix where it was we had so many overtakes at turn 1, so much carnage, safety cars.
The Austin GP was really...
It was top 3 for sure of the season.
Yeah, it was it was a really good race, and I think that this was just fell flat compared to that. Yeah.
I would say my top... I don't know. It's tough because, the U.S. Grand Prix, we were there. It's definitely in the top. Silverstone is definitely one of my top races this year. Mm-hmm. I'm excited for Brazil. I feel like it's got a lot of potential.
It's got some potential, even though everything's already done,
It doesn't matter.
I know.
I'm ready to see some... I'm ready to see some excitement.
Okay, so then who was your driver of the day today?
Well, I have to stick with Daniel Ricciardo.
And that was everyone else's driver
it was
of the day.
By far. I mean, he had the most overtakes.
Even though he made that mistake that got him a 10-second penalty, he's still your driver of the day, huh?
He's still everyone's driver of the day.
See, I think for me it was Max. I think just he dominated the whole entire time, right from lights out. Didn't falter at all. I figured, with him being on those mediums at the end, there was going to be an issue, and nothing ever came. Yeah. So I think he didn't do anything spectacular, like making 10s and 20 passes like Daniel did. However, he passed everybody up to Ricciardo, so he lapped Ricciardo.
I think they lapped everybody up to Leclerc.
No, and Ricciardo was plus 1 lap as well.
Yeah. So. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's great and everything. Of course, they have blue flags to be able to overtake back markers.
And I think that's kind of...
For me, it was the end of the race. He gets a 10-second penalty, and it's like, you've got to go, go, go. And he... on a track that you can't overtake very easily, the most overtakes from Ricciardo.
They were, and I'm curious on what your guys' driver of the day.
Who was your driver of the day?
Yeah, I'm curious on that too, because I imagine it's probably is Daniel. He did good, and I'm sure most people voted and like that. So
I just wish we could have seen it all season.
Yeah, he probably would still have a seat, unfortunately.
Yes.
It's a tough thing to see that he does not have a seat yet, or he won't.
He may have a reserve driver role next
we don't
year,
even know.
But we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We shall see.
Yeah. So, yeah, that kind of leads us up till, in 2 weeks' time, Brazil.
I know, Brazil.
And it's the second from the last race. Next year, it'll be the third from last race, I believe.
Yeah, because we have Qatar back on the grid.
And we have Vegas, too, which is the second from last race.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. We go from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth in 1 week. So. Yeah,
so next week is Brazil. Lewis's best chance.
I hope.
Even though up until last year, Abu Dhabi was always a Mercedes track.
Didn't they make the changes to the track last year to benefit Mercedes?
Yeah, and I mean, up until the safety car,
what a wreck.
Lewis was well dominant.
All I ask for is there to not be, I mean, there won't be any crazy controversy this year in Abu Dhabi, but we have a lot of really important send-offs this year. I mean, Vettel, we need to send him off right. You know, last year we had Kimi was leaving. It was George Russell's last season at Williams. It was Giovinazzi, and all three of them finished the race with like DNFs because of issues. We didn't get any donuts because the race ended the way that the race ended.
Yeah. This year, we're going to get donuts. We're going to get Vettel. We got Latifi leaving. We also have possibly Schumacher leaving.
We have Ricciardo leaving.
So there's a couple big names. You're right about that.
We need to see some good stuff. So it's going to be sad. The funny thing is last season, I expected to go into the race like, oh my God, it's going to be so emotional.
Yeah.
For a certain reason. And then it was like emotional for a completely different reason. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're ending it a month early. It's ending in November, so.
Yeah, which I think the last season ending in December is maybe a touch too long.
It was long.
I think November is a good time to end it. I think
they get to spend the time with their families.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't last year or whatever, but they've got more time.
Yeah. I don't know. Anything else you want to talk about?
I mean, the only other thing is the cost cap.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to leave that to the end, so I'm kind of glad you brought that up. So we now know everything that's happened with the cost cap. Mm-hmm. We know the penalty, the fine. Mm-hmm. We've even had a decent, weird interview with Christian Horner wearing glasses that everyone keeps talking about.
I wish I had mine to put on. So Red Bull exceeded the cost cap. So for us in America, I'll speak to American dollars. So it was $2.2 million in excess to the cost cap for 2021. But they are saying that it did not go towards anything for car development and went towards catering because they allow their teams to eat for free. Can somebody explain to me, and I may just be stupid, but doesn't every team on the grid allow their people to eat for free?
I imagine probably most teams, definitely the top 3, top 4 teams for sure. My opinion is, whether it's catering or driver improvement or car improvement or R&D or building improvements, whatever it may be, is all under the cap for a reason, right? And just because they interpreted it differently than other teams, only one other team was in breach. Every other team fell within their cost cap and did the right thing. And that's even Ferrari and Mercedes both being top, teams with unlimited budgets.
Right.
So I don't know. So then they were fined what, $7 million, and then they lost 10%.
10% of the wind tunnel and whatever CRD. I don't know.
Yeah, which is like computer simulation.
So what Christian is saying that it could cost them up to 0.25 to a half a second in their development. So essentially, because they're first in the Constructors' Cup, they already were down to 70% wind tunnel time. So now they're down to 63% after this 10% reduction, which ended up only being 7%. So, right. But they did gain 25% in motivation, according to Christian Horner.
Yes.
So I don't know, a fine for overspending for any top team.
But then the fine isn't go against this year's cost cap, which is kind of
like, why are we settling it at the end of this next season?
I know. And then why isn't it affecting their cost cap for this season?
It doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't, and like, where are we going to be for 2022? Because Christian Horner also in the interview said that there's 6 teams that are at risk of overspending this season based on something.
Well, it's on inflation, gas prices, and everything.
And they raised the cost cap already this year.
And so that's what they did. They raised it for that reason. And if you're not able to stay under the margins, then you're not able to start really much.
So are we going to be in the same situation next year where we're finishing the 2023 season where we're
It's okay.
Finishing the cost cap from the previous year? Like, we've got to be better than that. I would assume there's enough people in Formula One that they would be able to determine where they're at financially and close it out prior to the new season.
You would think.
The extra drama that I added to the season, the end of the season, was not necessary. They did not need to do that. It caused all this drama between teams to teams, fans to fans.
Yeah.
Stuff that we didn't need.
So then do you think that their what they got against their slap on the wrist or their whatever you want to call it, do you think that was sufficient for what they did?
I mean, I guess, yeah. I think because we're so far into the season, I feel like I expected there to be a points deduction.
Yeah. From
this season, not from last season. And I think it should be geared towards the constructor. Like, I feel like that's kind of the range that they've always done in the past, like with McLaren and Ferrari and whatever. It's always been towards the team, but there was nothing for constructors' points this year or last year, which wouldn't have made a difference last year, and it wouldn't probably have been enough for this year. But to penalize Max, wouldn't have been right. It's not his fault that the team overspent.
He's not there. Yeah,
so
I agree with that. I think it's somewhat fair. I don't know everything that needs to know. I think at least they finally came out with something, and they finally did something. I think the only thing I don't like about it is that the $7 million doesn't go towards any of the cost caps. So those top teams that have endless budgets, essentially, just and I'll just go over and I'll pay the fine.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing is, like, Mercedes and Ferrari are like, oh, we'll just overspend next year. And
exactly.
Then Andreas Seidel is like, no, it wasn't enough, and I don't think it was like a strict enough punishment.
Yeah.
And I hope that teams that go over in the future, it's a little bit harsher. So because when you think of these top teams, like Red Bull signed a $50 million sponsorship this year with Oracle. So they got an extra $50 million, and then they have to pay $7 million. So it's like, we're talking about these top, especially the top 3, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, like $7 million is chump change to
pretty
them.
much. Yeah.
So,
I want to know your guys' thoughts on all that too. Driver of the day, your thoughts on this cost cap problem, what you guys thought of the race, everything that we kind of talked about. I want to know what you guys thought.
Yeah. Will Mercedes take P2 in the constructors?
It's really close. I think they're going to pull it off.
I think they are too.
I do. I think they're going to pull it off. I think Ferrari's made some mistakes. And I think they are.
Well, they turned their engines down this weekend.
Well, I think they had to, and I think they're just gonna. They've just been running into too many mistakes. Where Mercedes has been consistent the whole entire season. Yeah, they didn't start off on the best foot. They had a huge porpoising problem. So did most teams. However, theirs took a little bit longer to fix. But they finished races for the most part, other than Russell doing a couple of stupid things.
Well, Russell had the one DNF, and then.
But for the most part, he finished in the top 5 almost every race, other than his a couple mistakes. Yeah, they've been really consistent. So I think, I think Ferrari has made a couple too many mistakes. I think it's going to show at the very end, and they'll be in third in Mercedes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I do. Whatever you guys think too. I'm kind of curious, but I don't know. That kind of wraps up things for me.
Yeah.
Does it kind of wrap up things for you? I think we kind of got everything that we needed.
Looking forward to Brazil.
Yeah, we got everything we needed off our chest for this whole entire weekend. It was boring.
Yeah. Ole, ole.
But
Checo.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see what comes next. We'll see you guys after the Brazil GP. Yeah, I don't know what else I got, but we'll see you guys later, okay?
Bye.